11 months out of prison, I'm in an amazing position where I'm receiving support and guidance to start a nonprofit to try to see that other people have the same opportunities and resources that I did. Because my success was not something that I did alone. It was really based upon the support that I got over all those years and since I've been out. When you think about it, it's so multi-level because at the most basic level, I had economic support. I didn't have to worry about where I would get money for a cup of coffee or be able to buy toothpaste or deodorant or the most basic things because I knew that I could work, but also if I needed the money, I could call home and get it, or sometimes I would get it for my birthday or for holidays. So I didn't have to scramble. I didn't have to take my eye off the prize and focus on hustling all the time and doing things just to have the basic things that I needed. Then additionally, I had access to the people in my life. I know guys who make a phone call once or twice a week because they can't afford it because their family doesn't pay for it. They have to pay for it for their own books, and they're making 27 cents an hour, so it's not reasonable. They don't have ready access to the world and to their friends and family. And then you have people who, one guy would get a visit once a year because that was all his family could afford to spend money on gas, to go up there, to have quarters for the vending machines. Like, it was a huge event, but it should have happened more often. Like, it would have helped him to happen more often, but they just didn't have the resources. Then additionally, you have things like books and education. I could get any book I wanted. I could either save up and I had enough money on my own books to order it, or I could get on the phone and say, hey, I really want to read this, or I really want to study this, or hey, can you research this so I have a better idea of what I need to study, or what I need to learn, or what the best text is. And I had access to those things. And then additionally, on top of that, I was able to go to college. So I left prison with a college degree, with essentially access and support to go get a graduate degree. I had all these things in front of me that other people don't have. So when I succeed or when I'm doing well or I'm in this position, again, it's not because of me. So when I look at the nonprofit, I want to look at what has the biggest impact. Like, where can I do? And right now, one of the biggest things that I've been able to do is share stories and kind of try to change culture. Because I want to highlight what's going on in the reality of the prison system, the reality of the criminal justice system, whether that's the inequity, or whether that's the good things that are being done, or the really harmful and bad things that are being done. Because I think that highlighting that is changing more people's minds, it's making more people's minds open, and it's leading people to kind of ask questions, become involved, and want to volunteer, and want to vote on this issue, or want to talk to their representative on this issue. And I think ultimately culture has to shift before we can actually change policy. And policy change is where a lot of the meat happens. Now, I don't want to be a lobbyist, I don't want to work in policy, that's just not where I want to be, but I do like the idea of changing culture to then those who that's their natural strength or inclination, they can do that. But then there are the resources. So how do we provide resources, directly or indirectly? Do we pay for people's education? I think that would be great, but the amount of money it would take to send a bunch of people to college or help people finish past their associate's degree is just inestimable. Like, I can't imagine raising enough money to be able to do that, and at the same time, is that the best investment? Like, studies show that you have a 5-to-1 investment for every dollar you invest in education in the prison system. So for every dollar you spend, you have a $5 return, which is partly in not locking people back up or not having to pay for services or incarceration, but also in future tax revenue. Basically, it's a really good deal. If you look at this from a business perspective, the ROI of 5-to-1 is a great investment. So education is a good one, but does it have to be purely academic education? Like, if somebody's going to get out and be a barber, does it make sense to pay for them to go to college? I think liberal arts education can be helpful and can be important, but I don't know that that's the best use of that money. So I think a lot of it can be in soft skills, can be in basic job skills, can be in basic kind of social conversation, because we don't have that. And then additionally, one of the things that helped me so much was access to therapy and access to treatment. So I started with meditation, and then I got into therapy, and I kind of went down this line, and DBT, or dialectical behavioral therapy, is an amazing program that allows you to learn distress tolerance and mindfulness and emotional regulation and interpersonal effectiveness. It teaches us skills that we use in all areas of our lives. So whereas sending somebody to college may teach them a skill, or teach them kind of a general scope, or sending somebody to barber school may teach them to be a barber, this is something we can apply in our homes, in our social lives, in our work setting, everywhere, because we're essentially learning better ways to live, better reactions, better ideas. And so I'm really a fan of it. I'm kind of leaning towards trying to figure out a way to provide programming that is essentially teaching people those skills. But one of the things that I found is that we have to make programming available, and ideally we would make it available to everybody, but some guys aren't going to take advantage of it. So the question is, how do we meet people where they are? How do we show people the benefit of this program? Because we could say, okay, we're going to make this available, and if 10 people out of 10,000 take it, we haven't made a significant impact as we wanted. And I don't want to just make something available to feel good or feel like I'm doing something. I want to meet people where they're at. The community service fair that I went to yesterday, where they have it at probation parole, they have service providers, they have network people, they have everybody in the community in one place, so that when somebody gets out of prison to go check in with their probation and parole officer, all those resources are there. We're meeting people where they are, because rather than saying, oh, well, you have to come to our office here, and you have to fill out these forms, and you have to do this, bouncing all around where people are already overwhelmed by getting out of prison, already overwhelmed by like just the whole process of life because they've never been adults before. They're in one place, and we can make these things readily available. So making education available, or having people who go in, like I would love to go in and teach these skills myself so I can say, hey, this is where I came from, I've been here. I've been in your shoes, and I'm able to tell you what I had, basically what my experience was both in prison and then getting out, and then since I've been out. And the idea of being able to say that from personal experience and not be some kind of like abstract ivory tower academic talking about what people need to do made me a lot more willing. Like the guys who came back, the biggest impact as individuals that I had were the guys who came back to speak at the prison who had gotten out. Because one, it let us know I wasn't forgotten. Like they hadn't said all these things about, yo, I got you, bro, like I'm gonna see you, and then just not done it. They remembered, and they still cared, and they still showed up, and that was huge. And that was why when I had the opportunity, I went back to speak at the prison to let guys know, you are not forgotten, and there is a way forward, and if there's some way that I can help you, I want to help you. So education and emotional regulation and those kind of skills I think are really important. And I think there would be a program for online learning if we could get any kind of like internet access. I think there would be a possibility of designing a program that's made available. But again, I think it would have the biggest impact if we had people going in and doing it face to face, because having that peer support, having somebody who's been there and knows what that experience is, I think is going to have the biggest impact. But then we have reentry and resources. There's no housing. There's no transition. There are no state-run halfway houses in Virginia. And I mean, nationally, there are varying resources. And some of the kind of private-run halfway houses are really good, but some are also incredibly corrupt and not a good place to be. When you go to your halfway house and you're supposed to be like changing your life, and the guy's smoking crack in the bathroom, and the other guys are getting drunk in the bedroom, and like there's no support, and that obviously isn't helpful. So trying to figure out what those reentry resources look like are a really important thing. Like, how do we make sure that those resources are there? From the basic things like housing and transportation to jobs, or transportation to training, or transportation to meetings, or transportation to whatever someone's needs. How do we do that? Because not providing that is essentially just dropping people off on the side of the road and saying, hey, like, good luck. Like, you have no resources, you have no funds, you have no anything. Like, don't commit a crime. When often, and not always obviously, but often economic lack or poverty was the reason that people committed crimes. So I think changing those skills and changing those mindsets. And another one that I'm really interested in is, I joke about it, I say it's an ex-con happy hour, because what I found is, again, people that have been in the situation that I've been, they've been through what I've been through, or they've been through where I'm at, and they're able to speak from experience. I find that incredibly powerful. So I've got a guy who's kind of a mentor to me who works in the nonprofit field, who's been out for years, and he's built this life, and he's done these things, and he inspires me. He lets me know what I can accomplish and where I can go, because I never could have imagined this. If you had asked me 11 months ago about any of this, I thought you were crazy. Like, yeah, I'm going to get out and start a nonprofit and be on social media. I'd have been like, yeah. So I want to try to figure out where the best application of these resources can be. And I want to make sure that they go to the right people, because you have a lot of nonprofit organizations that raise money or have great ideas, but they don't meet people where they are, or they aren't doing community work. That's why in Charlottesville I'm so happy with like Network to Work. I'm so happy with the Buck Squad. I'm so happy with the Fountain Fund. I'm so happy with these groups that meet people where they are. Like the Buck Squad, there's not been a murder in Charlottesville since 2020 because these individuals go into the community and they settle disputes and they intervene in things that are going on because they care. They say, look, whatever you're doing is your business. We're not here to be the police. We're not here to do whatever. We're trying to save lives. Too many people are dying over stupid stuff and stupid disputes, and we want to stop that. So they've been funded by the city, and they're going in and doing good work. And again, they're not there to be the police. They're not trying to like change what people's behavior is. They're trying to stop killings, and they're doing an incredible job of that. And that is community work. All the investment in the police department in the world, all the investment, from City Hall or from somebody who doesn't live in that neighborhood is not going to have the same impact as having people in that neighborhood who are empowered and invested in saving lives. And the proof is in the pudding because, again, we haven't had a murder in Charlottesville since 2020. So finding people that are in the community that can directly provide those resources, that can get people going through the process to have their rights restored so that they can vote. Because in Virginia, you can't just vote getting out of prison. Your rights are forever taken unless you apply and unless the governor restores them. And that's a significant thing because feeling voiceless, like I felt voiceless in prison. I felt like nobody was listening and I had incredible support. So the people who felt voiceless for all those years in prison and then get out and can't vote and feel like nobody cares or nobody hears them, having the right to vote means more to them than most people will ever realize. So basic things like that, like getting people registered to vote, getting people have their rights restored, connecting people with resources, and also empowering people. One of the reasons I'm such a big fan of the peer support program is somebody comes into the program saying, hey, I need help. They're learning from people who are or have been where they are so they can speak from experience. And then the goal is to transition them into a teaching or a leadership position. So they're the ones teaching the next generation. They're the ones growing from where they were, or what they went through, or what their experience was. And that empowerment, the belief that they can not only do better for themselves, but also for other people, that is huge. Like, that changes lives. When I was in prison in the peer support program, we would take the guys that were problematic and we would give them a responsibility. Like, hey, you've got a job. We need you to set this up. Or, hey, we need you to take notes. Or, hey, we need you to take attendance. Or, we need you to do whatever. Giving people something to do, saying you're important and we need your help, you are needed, is transformational. It's amazing what you'll see out of people doing that. And then watching people coming in as residents who needed help to receiving the help they needed, both from the staff as well as from the peer support mentors that I was, and then becoming a mentor themselves to pass that on. Like, that's what changes. That's what community is. That's making things better one step at a time. And that is the goal of this foundation. So I'm trying to put it together. It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of paperwork. But coming soon, the Second Cancer Foundation, where we are going to we're going to invest in the resources that are going to make sure that people make the best of their second chance.